Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I would totally bring a knife to a gunfight. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
I want you to find this Nancy boy, Elliot Ness. I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burned to the ground. I want to go in there in the middle of the night, and I want to piss on his ashes.
Damn, Margo, you're so angry. Why are you so angry? That's, first of all, really good impression.
Thank you.
You know I can't do that. It would sound like this. It would be like, what are we talking about here? I want to find Elliot Ness, and you'd be like, I don't know what you're doing there. What is that? So we are talking about 1987's The Untouchables, and we're in a really, really good mood because just a few hours ago, they finally called the election for Joe Biden. So we've been day drinking. Yay! Margo, what have you been drinking?
My St. Vincent's rosé from the Amy Poehler Wine Shop in Brooklyn.
That sounds delicious.
And it's hot today for some reason. It's just sunny out. It was just a beautiful afternoon.
Oh my gosh. And I know New York is celebrating. And here in San Francisco, they're literally dancing in the streets.
Yep.
It's awesome. And I am drinking what I am calling a margarita. And it's conservative tears with tequila and lime on ice. And it tastes so sweet, Margo. It's so sweet.
We're being salty today.
We're so salty. I have to watch my salt intake. So The Untouchables, speaking of why we're here, directed by Brian De Palma. It's written by David Mamet. Loosely based on the TV show from the 60s with Robert Stack. The dude from Unsolved Mysteries. But it's also a true story. I'm sure most of you know this. And I felt like I should give a shout out to the music. I never do that, but it's I'm going to make sure I pronounce this right. Ennio Morricone. Who did the music. And I think the music's really rad. That's why
it is rad.
I don't feel the need to normally call that out, but I thought it was really good. And it stars Kevin Costner as Elliot Ness, and we've got Robert De Niro as Al Capone, and the late Sean Connery as Jimmy Malone, and a couple other folks. Charles Martin Smith, he's so good. As Oscar Wallace, young hot Andy Garcia. Oh. And Patricia Clarkson in her movie debut as
Who's always great.
The nicest wife ever. She is the nicest, most supportive wife ever in a movie.
That's usually what she plays.
Yeah, she's good at it.
She's great. I love her.
Yeah, I love her too. She's always awesome. Did you see this movie in the theater?
I fucking well did. And I saw it many times. I loved it so much. It's the summer of 87. I remember I watched it like 4 or 5 times that summer.
Nice.
And then it became a staple in our house. Like when it premiered on HBO, we recorded it and we all watched it together. And I stupid love this movie. I haven't seen it in a very long time. But after the death of Sean Connery, and we've talked about Kevin Costner a lot on this podcast, we thought, let's just try this. Let's take it out. Let's see it. And does it hold up? Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Sean Connery, has he said some stupid shit? Yup. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But it's a great movie.
I think it's great too. I saw this in the theater with my mother because I saw everything with my mom back in the day. So I would have been 16 and we went to the movies every Sunday. It was like church, but we went to the movies. So I saw it with my mom, and then it played at our second run Dollar House theater called the Capri here there in Concord. And I think it played there for several weeks. So that meant I saw it several weeks in a row. I went to the Capri every weekend. I didn't give a fuck what was playing. It was $1 for 2 movies, and I saw whatever was playing, even if I had already seen it. So I saw The Untouchables several times in the theater. And then we did an episode, one of our first episodes we did where you were guest hosting back when you were just a mere guest host, just a baby. We did a true crime movies, and I revisited The Untouchables for that. And I was like, this movie's dope. I love this movie. So when you brought it up for this, I was like, yes, we need to do a whole episode. It's good.
It's super entertaining, just from beginning to end. There's not a wasted scene. The performances are fantastic. The art direction's great. It's fast paced. It's interesting. Everybody's well cast.
Yes.
It's just a perfect little movie.
I really think it is. And we know this already. Like, we have Adam Risky on all the time, and we all talk about how much we love Kevin Costner. We all love Kevin Costner. I think he's so good. It's like Elliot Ness is not the showboaty role here. Like, Elliot
Right.
Ness is a total fucking square. Like, he's like, bootlegging's against the law, drinking's against the law. You know, it's like, shut up, buzzkill. But he's right. Like, it is against the law. Drinking's not the worst thing you could do, but Al Capone is fucking violent as hell, and he's like killing people, and, you know, he does need to be stopped. But Elliot Ness is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's that good in real life. I read that he wasn't. But I like that they make him so good in the movie. And like, Costner's such a good person for that kind of role. He did it again in like JFK, the movie JFK. He plays a very good, noble type person. He's very good at that.
Yeah, well, he also did Field of Dreams. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a million roles in the 80s where his star was on the rise, and he is that everyman, but good looking,
Mm-hmm.
but not conceited. and yeah, not a beefcake role usually. I mean, there's just some sort of, he usually plays a father.
Yeah.
He has some humanity about him, and he's just, yeah, Elliot's a bit of a square, sure.
Yeah.
And there's a scene at the end where Elliot, I think, goes out of character, but we could talk about that. But I think it's just a David Mamet at his Mametiest, but in a great way. This is a sausage fest. This is all
totally. The only woman in it is Patricia Clarkson, and she is, like I said, the nicest, most supportive wife who is constantly like, you need to do your thing and don't worry about me, and I'm just having a baby and all, but that's cool.
Right.
Like, you catch the bad guy. And in any other movie, by the way, there would have been a scene where she's like, you're not spending enough time with us and I'm mad at you. But they don't do that here, which I like, because I think it goes back to what you said about there is no wasted scene here.
Right.
That would have been a
You would
stupid
expect
waste
that.
of time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she's got his back. This is Elliot Ness. This is what he does. This is her husband. He's a good man, good provider. The house gets shot up every once in a while. That's a drag, but
Yeah, bummer.
and she's so pretty, like the red hair and that peaches and cream skin.
She's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous, and the costuming here is fantastic. Everybody looks great, and I'm all on board. And then we get Sean Connery, who's like a flatfoot, just a regular street cop, which I love that touch. That he's not that high up anywhere. He's a bachelor. He lives alone. And then he's brought on the Untouchables, and he just teaches everybody how to do their jobs. And he's great in this movie. He really is.
I know that the accent is questionable because he's supposed to be playing Irish, and,
right?
You know, it's still pretty Scottish. But honestly, I'm really fine with that, and I think his performance in the movie is so good, and I think it reminded me because, yeah, Sean Connery's super problematic. We realize that.
We'll get into that.
He 100% is, and you can listen to What a Creep, where we talk about creeps like this all the time. I don't think Sean Connery's worth a whole episode, but I understand. And I think Sean Connery's always really good when he has a really good, strong director with a vision. And I think that that's why he's so good in this movie. Like, Brian De Palma's that kind of director. Or like when he was in Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. He's so good at that. But like, you know, in other movies with like maybe another director who's not as, say, visionary or strong, that's the word I'm looking for. He tends to be just like, oh, he's just playing Sean Connery. He's just doing his Connery thing. You know, and he's not doing his Connery thing here. He's acting here, and I think he's really good.
He's great. He's the heartbeat of the movie. You super care about him. You wonder what his past was like. You wonder how he got to where he is. You know, his apartment is like emblematic of his life and what he's doing with his life. And then he's a great leader with Elliot, but he's also lets Elliot take charge. You know what I mean? He gives advice. He says that, you know, he gives them good suggestions of the people they should have on board. He's a good partner, but he's not a braggy kind of person. He'll totally let Elliot, and then I love it. At the first, Elliot screws up. At first they break that bottle and it's like a bunch of
Oh, God, it was
umbrellas.
so
The box, excuse me. But he brings with him. So Charles Martin Smith plays Oscar Wallace.
Yeah.
Who's the tax guy, and he's more petite compared to Sean Connery. He was a very tall man, and Kevin Costner's like 6'1" or 6'2". So, and then they bring Andy Garcia, who's Cuban, but he's playing Italian, who's passing for white. Okay,
Sure.
I don't give a shit. This is '87 Andy Garcia. I could watch him all day.
Seriously, he could have played Elliot Ness's wife, and I'd be fine with it. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah, get back to the praying scene. Yeah, there you go. That's like,
Andy Garcia he's still he's very handsome even now, like, but back in the day he was hot.
Yeah.
And I love
he was smoking hot.
He's smoking hot. Sorry, we're objectifying Andy Garcia here. Welcome to our objectifying Andy Garcia podcast. But he is really good in this movie, and I love the scene where they recruit him, and he gives the like bullshit speech that like they all like, why do you want to be a cop? Well, I want to serve and protect. And they're like, fuck that. Like, tell us why you really want to be a cop. And just the whole thing about like Connery realizing that he's Italian, and he's like, you're a lying member of a no good race, and like just that back and forth that they have like between the Italians and the Irish, I think is realistic for the time. I believe. I obviously wasn't alive back then, but I feel like it was a thing, and I just like how forceful he is too. Like, he stands up for himself, and that's why Jimmy likes him so much, because he doesn't put up with bullshit, and he's got a deadly aim. So good with his gun.
He's great with his gun. And yeah, they go on it. So Al Capone is played by Robert De Niro, and De Niro really De Niro's it. He gains weight. He supposedly wore the same. He had the same type of underwear and suits made that Capone had. And I love De Niro when he's De Niroing. There's nothing better. He's great. He's there's been a million Al Capones on screen. He's one of the scariest. He's one of the ones like you really believe, oh yeah, that's a tough guy. He would beat to death, somebody in his crew that he thought was disloyal, excuse me, which he did. Al Capone killed 2 men with a baseball bat at a dinner.
That's some violent shit.
Fucking A. He's from Brooklyn, by the way.
Of course
Which
he
is where I'm from. Yeah.
Don't go and have dinner at Margo's. That's all I'm saying.
Take out my old cross.
He's a terrible host. I wouldn't want to have dinner with Al Capone. You never know when he's going to bash your head in. It sucks.
Can you imagine being there and watching
Holy
that?
Shit.
Oh, the trauma of all that. Yeah, and then you got to just eat your soup,
Yeah, and then, all right, go back to eating. So, one of the other things that I love about this movie is I super love this time period. So I like to watch movies set in this time period because I love it when men wear suits and hats. Remember when dudes wore hats? I don't remember it because it wasn't happening.
No, I don't.
But I love it in old movies, basically.
It looks classy.
It does. I would like
and
it
that's
to.
Where everybody called each other Mr. or Miss or Mrs.
And
their last name.
I would like it if people wanted to go back to wearing hats.
Yeah, I'm okay with the hats.
I'm fine with that.
It's the formality that people had.
Yeah.
You always you would call people like Mr. Smith until they would say, you can call me John. You had to like wait for that. And especially women, you were Mrs. What's his face that you were married to. That wouldn't work for me.
Mrs. What's his face.
That would never work for me.
That's my name. That's what I call myself, Mrs. What's her name.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I really like Charles Martin Smith as Oscar Wallace. I really care about him. I like how nerdy he is. Like how he's just like, I want to bust Al Capone for tax evasion, basically is his thing. Like,
Yeah.
what an awesome dork. You know, he gets all excited about books and look at these numbers. Whee! Like, he's so cute. He's so
Well,
cute.
we should say that we spoil on the show. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen The Untouchables, maybe see it first and then listen to the show. But they do follow all the tropes
Yes.
of, here they are in a very dangerous situation. They're trying to bring down this mob guy. The mob guy is putting, has the prosecutor on his attack list and all these people, and they have to have protection all the time. And Charles Martin Smith is not a guy that's like into guns. Like they have to teach him how to shoot and they have to teach him how to defend himself. And
Yeah.
it's so great when you see him and he finally, and there's a lot of killing in this movie. There's
Yeah.
like a shooting and whatever. But when he has his turn and he gets, killed, and it's still upsetting to me
It's
when
so
he's in
upsetting.
the elevator.
It's
and
fair.
Like, oh,
I know.
damn.
Here's the thing. I've seen the movie so many times and I still know I know it's going to happen. And every time I watch, I'm like, maybe this time it won't happen. And like,
Yeah.
I've got like my hands up to my face with like, like, please. Like, it's so sad. Like, it feels like a real loss when that happens. He's not just a rando dude that gets killed. Like, I really like that character.
Yeah, they all matter. I mean, the
Mhm.
deaths do matter, and so it does really bother. And so then Elliot like has to really like get more protection for his family. They're going to shoot up his house. Andy Garcia's freaked out, and Sean Connery, who's just been leading the movie this whole time, was like the heartbeat of the film. He's funny, he's brave, and then he fucking gets shot in his apartment.
So awful.
I remember the first time I saw this movie, and you kind of knew Charles Martin Smith that could happen. I mean, he's a little
Right.
dude, right? I didn't expect, and it should have. They telegraph it basically at the beginning, like, yeah, he's probably not going to be there to the last reel, but I still get really upset, and he acted brilliantly in that scene, and it's still scary and sad and upsetting, and and then the movie just changes, and then there's like it's a really hyper kind of tension. So.
Mhm.
We can't put Capone away for what he should be as a murderer.
Yes.
We can only get him with the tax stuff, but we got to have him pulled in. And there's Frank Needy, who was his enforcer. And the guy
that guy's
Needy is really good.
Oh my God. He's so creepy.
Billy Drago. Yeah, he's fucking scary. And the real Frank Needy was terrifying.
Yeah, I bet.
And wanted to break up with Capone. And you learn about that from, what's the Paul Newman? The Road to Perdition. There's a whole thing in there about Frank Needy and Al Capone. But there's a great scene that I love, where they're at a train station.
Oh my gosh.
And oh my gosh. And it's just a woman. There's going to be a shootout because somebody's being transported. And so they're going to cover it. And then a woman shows up. It's middle of the night. It's like almost midnight. And she's got a baby carriage and a couple pieces of luggage. And she's just bringing up one at a time. One step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I remember, like I said, being the movie theater, just like the tension in the theater. It was like, oh, Jesus, what? And then there's shooting, and then the baby carriage just goes down the stairs. And it's just brilliant. I mean, Brian De Palma, he could be cheesy. I don't agree with all of his choices in movies, but he directs the shit out of this one. It is a really well done film.
And that scene in particular is it's set up so beautifully. It's super tense. You're like, oh shit, there's a lot going on here. And it's so very, very tense. And then, there's like this slow motion, and then there's just like cool stuff with like, there's kind of a shootout. The carriage is going down, and like Andy Garcia comes running in and like tosses a gun.
Right.
It's like all this teamwork, cool cop shit that, is really cool to watch. And like I said, I saw it a lot back in the day, and I love that scene so much. And then years later, I saw a silent movie called Battleship Potemkin, and it's a 1925 silent movie. And that's where I realized this awesome scene that I've always super loved is actually like an homage to that movie. And that movie has this exact kind of scene with like the baby carriage going down the stairs. And that scene's amazing too. Like, it doesn't take from the one in The Untouchables at all. Like, that scene is still awesome. Like, you're really worried for that baby, and like
Oh my goodness,
and
yes.
and Elliot Ness has such compassion and empathy for like everyone around him. This isn't a movie where like rando people get killed and nobody cares. Like he always cares. Like he doesn't want guys on his team who are married because he's worried about their families and things like that. And God, that's such a good scene.
It's brilliant. There is a podcast called I Was There Too, and I think it's still available on Stitcher. But the Matt Gorley would interview people who had little parts in big movies, but that are memorable. And he interviewed the woman that played the mother that
Oh,
carried that up the
yeah.
stairs. So she was talking about like what was that like, and she's like, I'm a day player from Chicago, like I'm used to just like showing up commercials or whatever. And she goes, this production was just, they almost had like a trailer for her, like it was a really really
Wow.
big deal. And she talked about the shooting of it, and like even when they were doing it, like people were nervous and people really kind of excited. They thought they had a feeling it was going to be a big emotional part of the movie, and it is.
Did she say if was Kevin Costner nice to her?
She didn't say too
Hmm.
much about him. I think
Hmm.
yeah, I don't think she was. I think she said Andy Garcia was really nice,
Okay.
but I don't think she was that impressed with Kevin Costner. Sorry to say.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
We should talk about there's a couple of really famous that's a really famous scene, and there's also this really famous scene where Jimmy Malone, that's the Sean Connery character, and Elliot Ness are talking, and they go to like a church because it's the only place where they think they can't be, the walls won't have ears,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And Jimmy Malone gets to give his like famous speech about, you want to get Capone, here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. Like that's the clip that's the clip they used like on every award show. Like Golden Globes, the Oscars, like Screen Actors Guild, like all the award shows, like, and it's like then Sean Connery's thing, also nominated Sean Connery, and then they show that clip always. Like I wrote it down, but I didn't have to read it because I have it memorized because it was everywhere.
But it's a good scene.
It is a good scene, and I wanted to mention. So he did win the Oscar, and it's for sure one of those like career achievement Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take from the performance because it is a good performance, but I did want to mention that also nominated that same year, Albert Brooks for Broadcast News.
Which is one of the best performances ever.
Yeah,
And that's a movie we need to discuss.
I put it on our list because right after I wrote that in my notes, I was like, I hope that's on our list. And it was. Uh, I've said this before. I think Albert Brooks in Broadcast News is one of the best, like, all time movie performances. Like,
I am singing and reading both. I love that shit.
and just his whole scene where, like, he confesses how much he loves Holly Hunter. And then at the end, he goes, and how do you like that? I buried the lead. I'm like, oh. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, he's so great in that, and I really think he should have won. But I understand why Sean Connery won because he was such a movie star, and I mean,
He
I get
really
it.
he takes that movie to a whole other level.
He does.
It just wouldn't be the same without him.
I think that's true. Another, can I also think the movie's kind of funny. It's got funny parts. It is one of those like let's assemble the team movies, which I
Mm-hmm.
love. I love
Right.
let's assemble the team movies. But also there's this scene that made me laugh out loud where like one of the cops is retelling the story of the bad bust to I think the police chief, and he's talking to him and he's like, and then Elliot Ness gets in the bulldozer and says, let's do some good. And then they all laugh. Like, what a nerd. Because he's such a nerd.
He is a nerd and he is a dork and he is someone who wants to do everything by the book and he wants to keep his hands clean because he does. But then there's a so Frank Needy arranged either killed. Did he kill um, Sean Connery
He
or did
did.
he send somebody? Okay, he did it. Okay, so
Yeah.
Needy was he was the enforcer. Yes. So there's a scene with Kevin Costner and Frank Needy on a roof, and Needy's being an asshole,
Yeah.
and he could shoot him, but he doesn't shoot him. And Needy all of a sudden realizes, like, oh, he's gonna let me go. He's gonna like take me in, but he's not gonna hurt me. He's not gonna
Right.
kill me. And then he confesses to killing Jimmy, and just sort of like, oh, this Irish pig. What do you think he did when he died?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Kevin Costner and this is like David Mamet for sure, and Brian De Palma, but they're just like, bah, and he just throws him off the building into a car, which is totally antithetical to what Elliot was up until then. But we're meant to say, like, well, we all love Sean Connery and we miss him in the movie now. So that's and it got a big cheer in the audience.
Oh, for sure. It's a movie moment. It's not
a movie moment. Yes.
It's not a true to character moment, but it's definitely a movie moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing on this rewatch. I was like, and the movie is a movie. It's definitely inspired by true things, but I'm pretty sure Elliot Ness didn't throw a dude off a building.
Yeah.
I also I did do like some poking around, and I saw, like, in real life, like the Oscar Wallace character is really kind of a compilation of a couple of other nerds, and they didn't get killed, and I don't think there was a Jimmy Malone, or they didn't cross paths or something. It's all that. It's just movie stuff.
No, and Elliot Ness was married several times.
Yeah.
And died pretty young, like in his 50s, and was a drinker by the end. And yeah, it's not this heroic stuff that we see with Robert Stack or Kevin Costner. I mean, but that's not a great story to watch. I want to watch.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't think I think that's why when they talk about this movie, they say inspired by the TV show. Yeah. I don't even think they necessarily mean to suggest that it's that true. It's inspired by the TV show, and I'm fine with that.
I'm totally fine with that.
I like it.
It's an adaptation. It's just that's all it is. So yeah. I'm totally okay with it. It's not a history lesson.
No.
It's not a documentary.
Yeah, so he throws the dude off the roof, and he crashes through a car. And then we get the like, where's Nitty or whatever, and he's like, he's in the car. And then, the reporter asking Elliot Ness, like, they say they're going to repeal prohibition. What will you do then? And, Ness, I think I'll have a drink. That sort of stuff. But that's fine. I love it. I'm fine with that.
No, it works. It works.
It was a super fun rewatch, and interesting to rewatch it now with, like, De Niro's Al Capone, and of course, like, everything in politics now, like, just permeating, like, is just like seeping into the rest of my life. So I'm watching this, and I'm like, Al Capone is very Trump-esque to me, and how, I mean, Trump's not as tough. Trump is a wussy, like, he's probably crying right now on the golf course. Nobody likes me. But, like, just the bluster of Al Capone reminds me of Trump. And I mean, De Niro, like you said, De Niro is doing his De Niro thing. And this was such a De Niro thing, especially in the 80s, to like, I'm going to put on weight. And
I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to shave my head.
Yeah.
I'm going to study everything there is to study about Al Capone. I'm going to find out how he talked. I'm going to do everything method. That was his thing. He was a method actor. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he gave some of the best performances in the movies in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, but that was definitely his thing. So in the 80s, he did, I mean, Raging Bull was 80. And this one, and Angel Heart, and, Midnight Run. God, Midnight Run's fucking funny.
That's such a great movie. And
So
King
funny.
of Comedy.
King of Comedy. Like, I almost said Al Capone. Robert De Niro was always, like, putting on weight and then losing the weight for roles, and then putting weight back on and then losing more. It was his thing. I'm like, I don't know what diet he was doing, but I'd love it if he wanted to share it. Like, that would be great, because he looks great in things like Midnight Run. He's very handsome in Midnight Run. He looks great.
We have to talk about that movie someday.
Yeah, let's put that
Put
one
that on
on
the
the
list.
list for sure. What else should we talk about with Untouchables? Oh, should we talk about Connery?
Yeah. So was it at this time? I mean, our Barbara Walters interviewed him. So he had said in the past, when he was Bond in the 60s and 70s, that it's okay to hit a woman, but you just use an open hand. You slap her, you don't actually punch her. And then Barbara Walters, so it's like 87 or 88.
Yeah.
She's like interviewing, she had all these specials. And she sometimes asked the dumbest questions ever. But then every once in a while, she would get a little tough. And with Connery, she said, "Hey, do you want to change your statement? Like, do you want to change what you said there?" And he said, "Absolutely not. You know how women get. You guys turn up the fight and you can't just get the last word. You want more words. And sometimes that's all men has to do to just stop the conversation." And it's indefensible.
Mm-hmm.
It's shitty. It's misogynistic. I mean,
Yep.
it's all those fucking things. That's just who he was. And that stinks. It does
Yeah.
hurt my appeal for him, but he's good in this movie and I like this movie. And sometimes, it's hard when you have to decide between the art and the artist. I mean,
Yes.
did he hit all the women in his life? I don't know. He just said he thought it was okay. It's still shitty, but I
It's
don't.
super shitty, but
Right.
we talk about this a lot on our other podcast, What a Creep,
Right.
about like how do you separate the art from the artist, and does it take away from my enjoyment of this movie? No. Did it take away from my enjoyment of movies that came out after that interview, or after I was aware of that interview? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
if I had heard this story in 87, which I didn't, by the way, and saw this movie, it would have taken me out of it. But like, it's hard for me to separate like my feelings for this movie from that. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well.
No, you're fine. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Some of these are tough. Some of these are really difficult to reconcile.
Yeah. And
You know.
and once again, we do talk about this a lot, the idea of it's okay to like what you like, but it's also important to know sometimes the true stories about the people who make the things you like.
Right.
Just know it. Just listen to it and be like, yeah, that's a thing and I don't agree with it. But if you like the Untouchables, it's okay. You could still like it. You could still like Zardoz, or if you're one of the 4 people who like Zardoz, great.
Or Indiana Jones, or
Yeah,
whatever.
That's
Or,
okay. It's okay.
James Bond. Yeah, he was the best Bond. I mean, he was a bigger than life person. He had
Mhm.
he was 90 when he died recently. I mean, he's old. He had very old fashioned ideas.
Yeah.
And deep misogyny in there from his upbringing, probably. And not everybody is like Sir Patrick Stewart and can overcome being raised in that environment. Most can't actually.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we all have people like this even in our life. My dad's a grouchy, racist old man. And I'm like, whatever, racist old man. Roll my eyes, when he says stupid. Because I know, like, he's just a racist old man.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I tell him, that's really cool, Dad. Do you have like a newsletter or something I could subscribe to? And then
unsubscribe?
I want to unsubscribe from your newsletter. And then I, chug my drink and say, oh, my drink's empty. And then I leave the room. That's what I do. So I looked up a couple of things about the real life Al Capone, and my favorite part was apparently Al Capone showed signs of neurosyphilis.
Yeah, he died of syphilis.
He died of syphilis.
Well, he ran a prostitution ring.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have safe sex back then. I mean, there wasn't really practice.
Ha ha.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he deserved it. He's a scumbag.
Do you think Trump has syphilis? Maybe.
He's got I don't want to diagnose him, but something's up. Let's just say this. I think something's up. That's what I'll say.
I also read that Bob Hoskins was in talks to take on the Al Capone part.
He would have been good.
I think he would have been great.
Yeah.
Apparently, so they were talking to Robert De Niro, but they weren't sure that he would say yes. So they also approached Bob Hoskins, like, "Hey, if De Niro says no, will you do it?" And to his credit, he was like, "Sure." And De Niro said yes, and then they sent Bob Hoskins like a check for like $15,000, I think it said, and then he called De Palma and was like, "Let me know if there's any other parts you don't want me to play."
Yes, same here.
And I'm like, that's hilarious. And I read for Costner's role for Elliot Ness, there was a lot of different. There was like Harrison Ford was in talks at one point. Mickey Rourke,
Ugh.
Mel Gibson. Apparently, De Palma was quite interested in Don Johnson.
Don Johnson was a big star in 1987.
He was. He's very handsome too.
He still is.
Yeah. Jack
He's
Nicholson.
also a creep.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson. Like, I'm like, wouldn't he have been too old for that part? I don't know.
He would have been way too old. Yeah.
And then Michael Douglas.
Too old.
Yeah. Right? I'm like, I felt like they're too old for that part. Anyway. I mean, maybe Elliot Ness was really older, but I like Costner. I think that was a good choice.
No, he's great. He's perfect for the part.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about some other? This movie came out in June 1987. So would you like to hear some of the other movies that came out in the summer of 87?
Yes, please.
Okay. Another Costner movie came out, No Way Out.
I love No Way Out. Or I did.
Yeah, that movie's super good. It's really good. It's entertaining. It's very 80s though. Sean Young was beautiful. So beautiful. She went cuckoo, but she's beautiful. Full Metal Jacket.
This is the weapon. This is my gun. This is for shooting. This is for fun.
I haven't seen that movie in a really long time.
It's a laugh riot.
It's hilarious.
You're down to the dumps. Put that on. That'll cheer your ass up.
Oh dear. Oh, Matthew Modine. It's the same. Is that the same character from Pacific Heights? Also, RoboCop came out.
Great movie.
I have been thinking about rewatching RoboCop because I haven't seen it in a really long time, and I think I would love it even more now than I did.
I saw it a couple of years ago, and it totally held up for me.
Okay, that's awesome to know. Also, La Bamba.
That was a thing.
That was a thing. You couldn't get away from that song, by the way.
For years, I think. But definitely that summer, you heard it everywhere you went.
Everywhere. Stakeout.
I like Stakeout. I don't know if it holds up, but I used to really love that movie.
I suspect this one doesn't hold up because if you don't know what Stakeout is, Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez, he was so cute, are cops who are on a stakeout, hence the name, and they're basically spying on Madeline Stowe, I think.
Yes.
And yeah, and then Richard Dreyfuss like falls in love with her, and I suspect it doesn't age well, but it might still be super fun. I don't know.
I thought it was hilarious at the time. But
I loved it at the time. Loved it at the time. Who's that girl?
Oh God, what a terrible movie.
Madonna didn't make good movies, y'all. She Desperately Seeking Susan was like an outlier. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Most of them are terrible.
Yes. I like the song though. I still like the song. It's fine. Benji the Hunted.
What?
Do you remember Benji was a thing? And if you guys don't know who Benji is, Benji was a dog. And there was a movie called Benji the Hunted.
I used to know Benji movies, but they were much older than this.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of. He made one with Chevy Chase. Do you remember?
That's
it was like
right.
called Oh Heavenly Dog.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, Benji was a thing. He was like the 80s Lassie, if you will. But I remember there was a very famous argument between Siskel and Ebert about Benji the Hunted and Full Metal Jacket. I'm going to totally dork out. So I remember them going on like the Tonight Show. They used to go on the Tonight Show and they talk about like the movies that had come out and their reviews, talk about them with Johnny Carson. And they had split on Full Metal Jacket. Like I think Siskel had given it a thumbs down and Ebert gave it a thumbs up, but then they gave 2 thumbs up to Benji the Hunted. And Ebert was like, you heard it here first. Like, Ebert likes Benji the Hunted more than Full Metal Jacket or something like that.
He was wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. He fucked up sometimes.
So, and then Siskel was like, well, you see, Full Metal Jacket aimed really high and it missed. And Benji the Hunted wasn't aiming for that. It hit what it was aiming for. And then Ebert's like, so what you're saying is if you aim low and hit it, you're a good movie. Like, they had a huge back and forth about it. And I remember at the time thinking it was really hilarious that Benji the Hunted and Full Metal Jacket were even being talked about in the same conversation.
They would get super heated with one another.
Oh my
and
God.
Apparently that was real. Like,
Yeah.
that was a real tension between them.
They didn't really get along. You can see outtakes on YouTube of them like being dicks to each other and stuff.
Oh, total dicks to each other. And Siskel always got on his case about his weight.
Mhm.
And then Roger always made fun of him for being bald. It's very childish.
Very childish and hilarious.
It's super childish. And they both died young from cancer.
I know, it's not fair.
But that was a super entertaining show. Siskel and Ebert at the movies.
I watched it every week.
Every fucking week. I loved it.
I loved it too. And they very often introduced me to movies that I would have never have thought to see, which I am forever grateful. So I have 3 more movies for you. I know you did this one for Book versus Movie, Roxanne.
Oh, I love this movie. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so cute.
It holds up too.
Yeah, and Daryl Hannah and Steve Martin, so good. It's so funny. Dragnet.
I like Dragnet. I don't know if that holds up either.
I don't know if it does, but
liked.
it made me laugh really hard at the time. It was really funny. And then the last one is Spaceballs.
Which I totally loved.
I loved Spaceballs too. Bill Pullman was very handsome. Joan Rivers is so funny, and then the whole and John Candy, it's so good. It's a very entertaining movie. I like Spaceballs.
So do you want to hear about some of the top albums of 87?
Yes, I do.
So we have U2, The Joshua Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't escape it.
Nope, it was everywhere.
Prince, Sign of the Times, one of his best.
God, I love that one.
Oh, it's so good. Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction.
That one was good too.
They were great. I saw them open for Aerosmith that year.
Oh my God.
And
I
blew
saw
Aerosmith off the fucking stage.
So I saw Aerosmith in, I want to say 88 or 89, and Skid Row opened for them.
Oh, Sebastian Bach.
So funny.
REM Document.
Yeah. Good one.
Depeche Mode, Music for the Masses. I played that like crazy.
You couldn't get away from that one either.
No. Oh God, I love these. Okay. Def Leppard, Hysteria. Such a good album.
Okay.
Good album.
I still love Def Leppard.
Yes, I do too. And lastly, this album you couldn't get away from, George Michael, Faith.
So good. These are all amazing. Awesome.
It's great music.
Actually, I'm gonna put on that George Michael album after this. I've got some cooking and baking to do. That'll be a good listen. It's going down. I'm doing it. Ah, that's a good list. What else are you dorking out about?
I guess, because it was election week, I couldn't focus on anything really new. I had a hard time with that. I mean, I wonder why, Margo.
Yeah.
But for election day, I decided to go through all the Star Warses, movies, the different trilogies.
Such a good choice.
And it really did help ease my anxiety, and just all these stories interloping with one another. I did super enjoy it. I'll never love the prequels. I won't watch them again.
Yeah.
But it felt kind of neat, just having it on in the background, just having all of these different stories and different directors and different everything. And it totally held up for me. It really calmed me down. It's just a reason to get Disney Plus. And also, I've been watching Mandalorian. That just came back on. And it's amazing. It respects the Star Wars universe, but it's its own thing at the same time. and it's just pleasant. And Timothy Oliphant is just, God, is he good looking?
He's so handsome.
How does he get more handsome as he gets older? I have no idea, but he's great. Baby Yoda's there.
Yeah.
It's just, it really hits the spot for me. So that's been making me happy.
I love that. So Timothy Oliphant was in, of course, Deadwood, and he's rocking the cowboy hat, and then they do Justified, and he's rocking the cowboy hat. He's like the most handsome cowboy ever. And then they put him in The Mandalorian, which is basically a Western. So I was like, of course you have Timothy Oliphant in that. No cowboy hat, but he is basically playing the sheriff of the town. And I was like, of course he is. That's what you cast him for. And he's so handsome.
He's in Fargo, and in Fargo he has a hat. Not technically a cowboy hat, but kind of Western.
I need to watch the new season of Fargo. I haven't started yet.
It's pretty good. They have like 5 or 6 episodes out. I catch it on Hulu. I used to with Fargo, like I had to record it and watch it, right away.
Yeah.
This season, not so much. Chris Rock is wearing aging makeup, and it's a little. He's not the best actor. He's always kind of Chris Rockish.
Yeah.
It's not my. But there's some interesting characters this season, and Timothy Oliphant basically is playing this Mormon sheriff, and he's very pious, and he just is really smart and knows what's going on, and he's just always great.
Is he playing a good guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah. All right. Good to know.
It's Fargo. I mean, like, who's really good? Who's really bad?
Valid. Did you ever see the movie Go?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He plays like the drug dealer in Go. And I remember when I saw that movie, I was like, who the fuck is that? Yeah.
Not Jay Moore?
No, surprisingly, Jay Moore, not my type.
God.
Remember when Jay Moore was a thing?
He was such a thing. And yeah.
I don't know why that makes me laugh so hard. Because it's fucking weird.
He did really good impressions, like his Christopher Walken. Was a good walk-in, right. But he was on Saturday Night Live for a little bit, and then he had a show with Ileana Douglas.
Action.
Action, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a really funny show.
That was a good show, and then I don't know what happened.
Well, then they tried to make him like romantic comedy guy. Because he did Jerry Maguire. Then they tried to make him like romantic comedy guy. So he was in like Picture Perfect with Jennifer Aniston, and I was like, I don't think Jay Moore's like your romantic lead.
He's not.
He's not that kind of dude. It's fine. He needs a specific kind of part, kind of like Chris Rock. He needs a specific part.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's just funny that like some people are like a thing for a while, and then they just aren't there anymore, and then you're like, oh, what was that?
Yeah, so I didn't go see Go because I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the new Jay Moore film. But I saw it, and Timothy Oliphant he caught my eye. He's something.
He's married to like his college sweetheart. I mean, he seems really nice. Like he's great.
I love that. I have been watching Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix.
Right.
Which is I'm looking up his name to make sure I have it right. Philip Rosenthal. And he was an executive producer of Everybody Loves Raymond. And he used to do a show, I think it was on PBS, that was called I'll Have What Phil's Having. And it was just like a foodie show, right? He would just go around to different cities and try different food and talk about it. And now it's on Netflix. There's like 3 or 4 seasons, and we've been watching it. And I got sucked in because he did an episode about San Francisco, and I love to watch foodie shows about San Francisco because sometimes they visit restaurants I know, but sometimes they go to like a little Mexican place that maybe I don't know. So I was watching it, and he's very enthusiastic about like everything he's trying. He's super happy to be there. He's super nice to everyone he meets. Like strangers, like, the food is so good. Have you tried this? Come here, try this. And like invites them to like sit at his table and like eats with people. And I just love how friendly he is. And I like travel shows about food, basically, is what it comes down to. And so we've been watching those, and they're very pleasant. He's very, very funny. His brother's like a producer of the show. So there's a lot of like sibling stuff on it where like his brother like makes him go zip lining, and he's like, God damn it, Richard. Like, just this kind of like annoyance at his sibling for like booking him on these things that like making him paddleboard or making him like get on a boat when he's hungover, so that he knows he's gonna throw up. There's this weird like, I don't know if you ever watched Everybody Loves Raymond, but I kind of
I loved Everybody Loves
yeah,
Raymond.
I have a feeling that their relationship is a little Raymond Robert like.
Yeah.
Where like Phil is probably the Raymond that everyone loves, and Richard's the one that's like, thanks for noticing, like that sort of thing. So it's really good. It's on Netflix. Like each episode is like 45 minutes, and it's just like happy guy eating food, talking to other people who are happy to talk about food. It's lovely. It's very light.
Supposedly the Everybody Loves Raymond set was like the nicest place to work.
I hope that's true.
Yeah, and that the writer's room, which is usually a terrible place for people, they said you worked 9 to 5. Everybody had a life. Everybody was able to go because they wanted material. So they're like, no, go home to your family. Like, we need to come up with stories. And everybody made a shitload of money from that show.
I only watched it sometimes. I didn't watch it like consistently. I would watch it every once in a while, and I just always thought like, God, that cast is like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Everyone's super funny.
Yeah, like everybody was, because you had Doris Roberts. She's fucking funny. Peter Boyle's fucking funny. Was it Robert Garrett? Is that his name? That plays the brother?
Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett. Thank you. He plays Robert. Yeah, he's funny. Like, Ray Romano's funny. It was a funny show. I liked it.
It was good. I liked it.
So I think Everybody Feed Phil is, or sorry, Everybody Feed Phil. Everybody Feed Phil.
It's a new dog.
Sorry,
everybody just feed Phil.
My margarita's kicking in, everybody. Somebody Feed Phil is very enjoyable. So this was fun. I'm glad we got to talk about the Untouchables on the day that we learned that Donald Trump is touchable. It's very, very fun. Where can people find you on the internet, Margo?
You can find me on social media at Brooklyn Fit Chick. That's for Twitter and Instagram. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And I already mentioned our show, What a Creep. You can find it at whatacreeppodcast.com, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we talk about creep every week. And then we end the episode with someone who's not a creep. And right now the episode is about Alex Jones. What a coincidence. He was just like off trying to start a riot in Phoenix like the other day. Anyway, he's a super fucking creep. You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, where I share pictures of bread and beer usually. And if you want some stickers, you could email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com, and we will gladly send you some stickers. They're adorable.
They are indeed.
And if you want to give us a positive review, please, an Apple Podcast, that would be amazing. If you want to give us a shitty review, you don't have to do that. That's fine. You could email it to us. We'll love it. What I'll do is I'll read it out loud and dance to it. So please send your shitty reviews to our email. And this was super fun. Thanks for talking about the Untouchables with me, Margo.
I had so much fun, and it just brings back so many memories of just being at that time in 87, summer of 87, and all these great movies. And it's just always fun talking to you about them.
And so I don't know. Do we know what we're going to talk about next week? What's on our list for next week so we could give people a heads up on their homework? Let's see. La 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 la. I'm looking it up right now. And I'm talking and reading.
I am singing and reading.
Holy shit, we don't have anything on our list next week.
Should we do, you know what? Let's do this, because we're going to be talking about Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
Let's do The Departed.
Let's do The Departed. I love it.
Let's do the fucking Departed.
I love it.
It'll be synergy.
Got it. It's done.
Done.
All right, everybody, go watch The Departed. And we'll talk to you next week.